Hi, everybody. Leanne
Hi.
Holitza and Stephanie at the Healing Studio. We're going to talk a little bit about the, the energetic weather. But before we do
Cloudy
that,
with a chance of rain.
right? So before we do that, though, I'm gonna pull a flower evolution card for all of us, just because it would be good to find out what little flower help we could use. Oh, we got the Grevillea. So on this deck, there's a whole bunch of words on the back. So I'm going to read some of them. Activate fearless speech. Message is speak your mind. Do you often hold back your words for fear of hurting someone's feelings? This dissolves fear around speaking your truth, suppression of anger and frustration, apathy, dread, resistance, and aversion and disgust, and magnifies fearless speech coming out of your shell, expressions that enhance or engage with others.
That sounds
Okay.
about right.
So what are you noticing, Stephanie? What's happening in the world of energy in your perspective?
Oh, it's intense. We are going back and revisiting. It's the between the eclipses, there's a lot of shadow happening, and a lot of people are not only really intense emotions like grief, childhood wounds coming back up and grief coming back up. But when we work through a lot of childhood wounds, a lot of times we're working through like the grief and the sadness of the childhood wounds. And now it seems like all the anger is coming up. And there's resistance from the people in our energy fields that were participants in that dance of those wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And in the people who are trying to be like, no, no, see me right now, like update me to present time. So we're needing to go not only revisit those like childhood wounds and how they affect us now, but also I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to get the people around them to like see me as an adult. And I think seeing ourselves as an adult helps a lot to level that up, but it's also like stop seeing me as this wounded child, because I need to ascend. I need to ascend, and I need to be an adult in order to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also just noticing. I mean, one of the big messages was don't abandon yourself for someone else or somebody else's needs, and like notice how you've done that over and over, and like stop doing it. Just come back to giving yourself an opportunity to say, I'm gonna be have my own back, and that's gonna be what I'm gonna do first. Um, I am also seeing a lot of um, kind of like consequences of motivations that were not necessarily based in like best what was best for you or what you wanted, but instead what you thought you should do or what you thought you should be participating in. I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm also seeing a lot of people encountering like insatiability, like nothing makes them satisfied, nothing makes them happy, nothing like people, saying to everyone else, what else can you do? Or what else can you do for me? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like at this point, there's a lot of messages around, um, kind of go back and make sure that what you're pulling forward isn't what you've been doing over and over, like do something different.
Mhm.
And I guess that's probably that eclipse season. Like you said, we get to have a little bit of the, um, revisit shadow work, that kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting on the lunar eclipse. I posted in a private group that I was having nightmares. And I said, I never have nightmares. What do you guys think of this? And I wasn't thinking of the lunar eclipse, but everybody to a person. There was like a dozen people that said, yeah, I never have nightmares. And I had a nightmare last night. And then other people were mentioning, and even clients coming in were mentioning, like, I never have nightmares and I had nightmares last night. So there was something collective that was like brought us into deep, dark subconscious parts of ourselves. And I think we're still working through that, but more on a conscious level.
Yeah, well, and I think it is important for us right now to be aware of like what is our, initial feelings about the day. What did we dream about last, night? How did we sleep? All those things are going to impact how we're creating. And I think that, with this energy that's coming, the like being self or the sleeping self or the self that's kind of like unseen is just as important as the seen self.
Yeah.
Um, and again, that is probably, somewhat about the eclipse season, um, I mean, I think that this is a really intense year too for just cleaning things up in that regard. So like, I think I keep seeing like all the astrologers saying that April's going to be super unpredictable and like kind of, you know,
Oh, joy.
I know, right? Well, I mean, and that just like even the predictions that are being made are like it's okay for relationships to end. It's okay for you to not, like not every relationship has to be there forever. Like a lot of things that would kind of scare some of us, to think about, well, what does that mean? What's going to happen now? Like um and so it's always interesting when we get told to like not have things there versus like this is coming, that's coming. But instead the messages are like, nope, that's not coming. That's not for you. Nope, that's not, and how that like works us up a little bit and we want to predict what's going to be next. Like, okay, well, what's going to be
Yeah.
in the, great, I'm letting that go. What's coming instead, and it's like, well, sometimes you don't get to answer both questions at once. Sometimes let go and then wait and see. And so I'm seeing that go on. And I'm also seeing um like, you know, the habits of like seeing something over and over the old way and not letting the new way be shown or be available. Like it's almost like even if like the new way is loud and louder than the old way, people are like,
Right. And
no.
that brings in something else that we as a species we tend to get stuck in our victim story. This always happens to me this way.
Mm,
That always, these people always treat me this way and I can't get out of that. And right now, one of the big messages that the guides are saying over and over again is choice. Like take over your choice space. You get to choose how you want to do this differently. We're not being thrown into a new way of being as much as we're choosing to step into. What are we choosing to step into? We can choose to keep doing the same things over and over again, and that's not going to serve us. And we can see ourselves as like, oh, that was taken out of my life, or we can see it as, okay, I was getting messages to say it's time to let that go, so I'm choosing to let that go. And those
mhm.
those messages of choice are coming up really strong right now.
Yeah, well, and our participation in the perspectives, oh, okay, you're gonna see it that way, then I'm gonna agree to see it that way too,
Right.
versus being willing to say, well, that's one way to see, yes, but I have another way of seeing it, and this is how I see it, and letting both of
Yeah.
those things be true.
Right.
Um, Instead of having to defend, no, no, this is what it is, this is what it is. I'm just feeling a lot of like defensive energy. I mean,
Yeah.
this is, Aries energy, which is what season we're in astrologically on the sun signs, is very singular. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's, I mean, it's about self
Mhm.
and reasons for doing things with kind of a pointed direction. And I think we've been a little bit kind of scattered about what that was supposed to mean. And energetically, like even when we were doing our best and then somebody would maybe say, "Oh, your best isn't enough," or "Your best is too much for me," or, whatever. And then, how do we recalibrate what we wanna put in and what's actually being accepted and received by the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm seeing it like I'm sitting here going check, check, check in my own life as well
Mhm.
as as well as the people that I'm working on.
Yeah, I mean,
Getting to
obviously, you
now.
guys, we're coming to you live because we're sharing with you our perspectives, and we're in our own human selves too. I mean, we're energy healers, but we have our experiences of what that looks like, even for our own families and things like that. So There's by no means a perfection claimed in any of us, but that's, I guess
Yeah,
that's
please don't expect that of me.
yeah, right, exactly. Um, I did notice that in the Facebook, live Sunday reading that I do,
Uh-huh.
that this week's theme was very much like come back to the self, come back to a single relationship, come back to and I don't think that they meant like they meant like a lover necessarily. It was like come back to a person who you want to strengthen your relationship with and who can help you solidify your own healing space, hold space for you to make room, versus need something to be different or changed or something like that. I mean, I think that sometimes that singular relationship can be just with yourself.
Mhm.
Doesn't necessarily have to be with another person even. Have your
Right.
own back.
Right. And I do notice there are times when we're called to notice the collective, like our friends, our communities, where we're community minded and, nourish all your friendships and get into those really juicy spaces where you show up. And then there's times when we're meant to come in and go, okay,
Mhm,
this is time for me to look inside and see, like you said.
mhm. Yeah, so, I mean, it doesn't have to be that, intense, but, um, so, Crystal's actually saying for us, she says she keeps saying, "I don't know yet, one step at a time." So, I guess that's true, and she's also saying that things being let go of or questioning what is next is confusing. And I agreed. I think we're taught to be kind of planners, we're taught to have, a backup plan, we're taught to have, you know, s th know predicting what we're going to be doing in the future before we let go of what we're doing in the past, and that's not where we're at right now. We just can't. We can't know where we're going. And the guides keep reassuring me that that's like the miracle space, the space where there's nothing's defined is where the miracles can start to form because they're not defined yet. And so, that's,
Like
I
that.
guess, the
It's like that when you're writing a book and you start with the blank page.
mhm.
And there's so many stories that can come out in that blank page, you know?
Right, right, and you don't want to know how it ends necessarily when you first start. And even especially if you're reading the story, you don't wanna have the whole story already known, like, that's the fun part of it, right, is to unpack the story. So,
Right.
you know, I think if we could just get into that space, I think we will all be able to benefit from what's going on. Like I said, there's a lot of my sources say that April's going to be difficult energetically, and I don't say that to like program you guys, like to say get ready, for badness.
It's
It's
not
it's
about fear.
mm-mm, mm-mm. It's just a forecast, right? It's just the it's gonna snow, take your coat kind of thing.
Right. One of my favorite personal sayings is, "Oh, so this is what we're doing now." Okay.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
and it's it brings in that light curiosity. Like, "Oh, I wonder what this is gonna lead to."
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So there's you guys, if you're watching and you have comments you want to make, feel free. I will say, that one of our goals at the Healing Studio is to try to hold space for healthy growth. I know Stephanie is participating in our Satori game this month, which is like a rewriting your story forgiveness game. I have a virtual version, but I moved it to June. So this one that I'm talking about is live. But just opportunities. We have the Reiki share, which is another opportunity to kind of help support each other through, whatever this is that we're in at the moment. But kind of empowering rather than being afraid or being shrieking, away from the change. That's what we're trying to be here for you and for each other, so that this is always it's a good time to remember the power of our thoughts, the power of our disciplined belief systems versus, like limitations, that kind of stuff. So, is there anything else you want to add, Stephanie, before we go on with our healing day?
Just be gentle with yourselves.
Hmm.
Just be
Yep.
gentle. And be gentle and kind to everyone you meet because they're all in this energy too.
Yeah, and I mean, remember, like, we're all trying to do our best. That's like, that's the other thing too, is we're doing our best. All right, you guys. Well, go be amazing. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you around at the healing studio.
Bye.
Bye.